Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population and with little or no meaningful engagement leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board recently addressed concerns over the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculations Examination results, which saw over 1.5 million candidates scoring below 200 out of the 400 marks. Now, this was made clear according to the JAMB registrar and professor, who said that technical glitches caused by human error led to the unexpected low scores. This was made known in a press conference. He explained that the issues arose from a faulty software patch deployed by one of JAMB's technical service providers, which failed to update certain servers properly. Well, it's another episode on your favorite primetime show. My name is Mercy Eboko. And today we're going to be talking about the UTME results, of course, as JAMB admits to error. Now, joining us to shed more light on this is Ufoma Egbamuno, who is the head of news at Cool Wazobia Info. And that will be much later. Now, remember that Ways is all about you. You are the why in the Ways, and so be part of the conversation every single day and add your voice to the discussion. Head to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV, hit the like and subscribe button, share and invite your friends to join the show now. Now, when I open up the phone lines, I would like to really hear your thoughts and what you have to say about this, especially if you're a student or if you have, let's say you have kids, you have siblings, those who have been affected by this examination, those who sat for this examination. We really like to hear your thoughts. We like to hear your experience about all of this when we return. And so always, don't forget to always ponder on our quote. Now, today we're saying that what should have been a moment of joy has changed due to one or two errors. And that is according to Oluyide. Well, we'll delve into this much later, but first off, I'll take a short break, and when I return, I'll let you into my news interest for the day. Please stay with us.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
And many thanks for staying with us. You're still watching Ways if you just tuned in. And today we're just going to have a very fantastic conversation. We'd like to hear your thoughts when we open up the phone lines. Please call your friends, family, your kids, your siblings, especially those who have been affected by these, particular issue that we're going to talk about, the JAMB results and all that's been happening. But just before we delve into the conversation, let me let you into my interest of today in terms of the news. First on the list is that ASU threatens to sue JAMB over the UTME mass failure. It's something that is really heartbreaking. But the big question here is, should someone be accountable? Should someone be accountable for this? Should there be some sort of accountability? Should somebody pay for this? I mean, time will not let us, get so much into the conversation. We'll just leave that. And another for me this evening is that student loan, the federal government has set up a committee to standardize fees payment. That's another one. And the third on the list is that Lagos is set to actually introduce monthly. We've had this conversation over and over again, and I'm not sure how this would actually sit with a lot of people, because I think that there's so much, when it has to do with rent for us. I know that if you look at other climes, if you live outside of this country, I've literally visited away from Africa and Nigeria, I found out that rent is being paid on a monthly basis outside of this climb. Right, so Lagos State is set to introduce monthly rent payment system, and that's basically it. But prior to this, because like I said, this is not the first time we're having this conversation, there's been a lot of questions and concerns about whether it's a good idea. I know that some have really said that it's very brilliant to have, a payment system where you get to pay on a monthly basis. But then again, let's come back to our reality. We live in a society, we live in a climate where employers will leave, or some of them, they really owe salaries. So you get to work in an organization and an office. Let's assume that you're supposed to pay your rent. What month are we in again? This is the month of May, and so you're supposed to pay your rent in May. And then your rent is due in May, and you're supposed to get your salary. Maybe a few days, let's say on the 25th, thereabout, we should be standard. And then the salary doesn't come around 25th. And then, salary is being owed, for May, you get into June, July. I really don't know, but I think that we should think about some of the policies, some of the systems, some of the ideologies that we're thinking about, wherever it is that we're seeing it. We also need to look at our system. We need to look at our economy, if it's doable, because in the law of comparison, you have to compare things that are on the same pole. That's what he says. So there are certain factors that might not be favorable for having this sort of payment. As much as a lot of people think that it's a brilliant idea, others also think that it's not fantastic. But our fingers are crossed, and let's see, how all of this pans out. We'll take a short break now, and when we return, we'll just head straight to the conversation. Please stay with us.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we'll analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
And you're still watching Ways right here on your favorite channel. And if you're just joining us, the conversation here is about the UTME results and the fact that JAMB has admitted to its error. saying, hey, there was a technical glitch and we take responsibility for it. There's been a lot that has actually happened. But we'll just go straight to the conversation, and to shed more light on all of this, joining us is Ufoma Egbamuno, who is the head of news, Cool Wazobia Info. Ufoma Egbamuno, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me.
Yes, please. I hope I got the pronunciation of your name correctly.
You did well.
All right, then. Thank you. What are your thoughts? First off, when you saw the results or the headlines or the news that said that out of almost 2 million students that sat for the examination, 1.5 million did not, meet the cutoff point or get to the cutoff score of 200. What was your initial thoughts and feelings where you saw that particular news that broke?
So to be honest, it was mixed feelings, if I'm being honest. At a point, it felt like maybe something was wrong. There was a glitch somewhere. Then the other part of me was like, okay, maybe because this is a computer-based test where cheating is possibly reduced to the barest minimum, maybe we're beginning to see the effects of all of the cheating that have allegedly trailed, excuse me, the exams that we usually take before JAMB, which is the WAEC, the NECO, all of those exams we take, at secondary school level before we get to trying to look for admission into universities. So it was a bit of mixed feelings for me.
Mm. But yes, I'm sure, because there were some other school of thoughts out there. Some people thought that we were in a dispensation of social media, and so you have a lot of young people these days focused on the internet, Instagram, Twitter, WhatsApp, TikTok, really. So it was more like, hey, the TikTok generation could not even score up to 200 in an exam. I mean, I felt some type of way, but unfortunately, there was really an outcry. We saw a lot of students, a lot of people complaining on social media saying, hey, we actually put so much effort in studying. Now, we're hearing that the cause of the glitch, that, the cause of the mass failure that students actually experienced across was as a result of a software application that was not properly updated. What are your thoughts on this?
Unfortunately, I haven't gotten to be able to watch the press conference from Professor Ishak Olede, the JAMB registrar. But, I've seen the full text of his speech. Now, while some of his explanations, do look plausible, I honestly think that at this point in time, heads should be rolling. It's not enough. While it's credit to him, Professor Olede, that he has admitted, responsibility for the glitches and the failure, I don't think that's enough, because this 2025 JAMB has been bedeviled with a lot of controversies. First, it was the whole issue of having to start accreditation by as early as 6:30 a.m., meaning that the students were supposed to get to their venues before 6:30 a.m., which of course meant that some people had to wake up from their houses as early as 4, and we saw all the attendant issues that generated. And then an explanation on social media, which, if we're being honest, whoever put out that statement on behalf of JAMB on Twitter, needed to be sacked, because it was a question of saying a lot and almost saying nothing, and going back to admit the fact that the exams, whether it's accreditation or the exams proper, started at 6:30. And as if that was not enough, all of these issues about, there was a service provider that did not properly apply the corrective updates, this and that, I think it goes beyond accepting responsibility. A lot of parents, a lot of these students have gone through traumatic experiences. We reported today that a 19-year-old, who lived in Ikorodu had to commit suicide. Like literally, she had to take her own life on Monday because she scored 190 and wasn't particularly excited or happy with the result. Imagine the trauma that family is going through at this point in time. We've also seen cases where some of the students reportedly are missing, because they left their homes that early. So crying on national TV or taking responsibility, I don't think it's enough. In a sane society, Prof should be tendering his resignation at this point in time. And of course, the service provider and everybody that is responsible for this trauma that has bedeviled a lot of students, should face the music.
Quick one. So the West African examination result does not expire. Why is it that students and people have to write JAMB every other year? Like it's an annual thing. I mean, I can remember how many times I wrote JAMB myself. I literally wrote JAMB in 3 major cities in this country. So why is that the case? If the WAEC result does not expire, why do we have to be writing JAMB every other year?
Now, I think I'm the best person to answer this question. Because I wrote my first JAMB was 1998, a year after I finished secondary school. I literally had to write JAMB 7 times, poly JAMB 3 times. That's 10 if you add everything together. It took me 7 years between when I finished secondary school in 1997 and when I finally got admission in 2004. It got to a point where I could literally tell you, if you mention a school, I could literally tell you what courses they're offering. That's how much I crammed, so to speak, all the content of the JAMB, that paper. Or that booklet, I've forgotten what it's called again. Now, which begs the question, why do we need to constantly keep retaking this examination every blessed year? Some have accused, JAMB of just being merely a fund-generating avenue, for the government. And you could argue that those persons who are laying these accusations are not far from the truth, because like you rightly noted, if you take WAEC and you get your results, the only reason you go to retake WAEC or NECO or any of these examinations is if you don't get the required result. As soon as you get it, it is there for life. But we continuously every year have to take these entrance examinations, with all the trauma that it comes with all the money you have to expend. I don't know. If I'm being honest, I honestly do not know what needs to be done. But I'm glad this has happened in a way, because it's bringing up a conversation that, we've been sort of trying to hide under the carpet.
But do you think that this would actually change anything? Because we have seen incidences happen. We've seen things happen around this. I mean, if we want to look at our elections, for instance, I remember that in 2015, we had the introduction of, some sort of technology, the smart card readers, to help the administration and conduct of our elections. But then again, the difference wasn't so much. And we have constantly seen ourselves fail at conducting credible elections with the application of technology. So I'm just wondering if this is going to make any sense. Do you think this is going to change anything, or it's just going to be that we're just going to be having these conversations at different, platforms and different places?
Sadly, if you go by the trend, I don't think much would happen. What will likely happen, which is what what JAMB has said today, is that the over 170,000 students who were affected in Lagos and in the Owerri zone comprising of the southeastern states, that are going to retake the examination in 2 days' time. That's May the 16th. Today is 14th. Yeah, so in 2 days' time. So basically, the over 170,000 persons who had these issues, had these glitches in Lagos and in the southeastern states. They're the ones who are going to retake this exam. I don't think that the larger conversation, which is why do we need to keep repeating this examination every year? Why does it look like JAMB is more focused or more concerned with generating funds as opposed to, why in the real sense do we actually need JAMB in the first place? Shouldn't we leave, the admission of students into universities to the respective universities themselves? Why do we need a central body, to take these exams, and then the universities themselves will now still have to go through another process before taking in these students? Unfortunately, I don't think we would have that conversation. The only conversation we're having right now is about how to rectify the 2025 exams. Some stakeholders, have called for the cancellation of the exams totally. But at least from what we gathered today from the press conference given by the registrar, it's not going to happen. What's going to happen is the situation where just over 173,000 persons, would have to retake the exams because those were the centers where we had issues with the CBT centers.
Just before, we open up the phone lines and have people contribute to the conversation, I'd like us to also look at the issue of accountability, which you've also talked about, the issue of owning up whenever a mistake is done, and not just in that aspect that people should be responsible, taking responsibility. Now, prior to the release of this result, remember vividly that the Minister of Education had said that, yes, the result was approved, that the anti-malpractice exams system and structure was working. Today we hear that, we don't hear, but of course we have seen very well the ownership and saying, hey, we are responsible for the failure and the glitch that happened, across that a lot of students experience. What are your thoughts around this? Taking responsibility, being accountable by those who are supposed to provide direction.
So if I would have to comment on that disgraceful comment, from the Minister of Education, I think it just shows to Nigerians how much of sycophants, we have people in power. Everything that happens is public relations. I think the present government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his ministers, they are a lot more concerned with PR and propaganda as opposed to really doing what needs to be done. Here you are having the Minister of Education trying to turn the tables around, trying to look for how to project the government in good light and talking about how, it's a policy from the government that has ensured that, this has happened. And then 2-3 days down the line or a week down the line, you have eggs throwing up on your face because evidently we're seeing right now, at least from today's press conference by JAMB, that the entrance examination body has owned up to the lapses that occurred. So it has absolutely nothing to do with whatever nonsensical policy the Minister of Education was talking about. I don't know how he's going to wiggle away from these eggs that that are being thrown in his face. And it's not just his problem. It's a continuous problem from almost everybody who is in government. Something happens, instead of finding ways to solve it, they try to spin it around, get public relations out of it and trying to turn it around to make it seem like, the government is doing something great. Now, I agree, you need PR in government. You need to be able to tell people, you need to be able to spin things, but there are certain things you can't spin. If things have gone wrong, simply just admit, just like the JAMB registrar admitted today, and not all that BS, pardon my French, that the Minister of Education was trying to throw our way a couple of days ago.
Ufoma, we'll just take a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue with the conversations. We'll also open up the phone lines. Don't forget that we'd like to hear what you've got to say. You can do all that by sending your message to the number via SMS and WhatsApp 081 8038 and 4663. The phone lines to call will be 070 25 0077 and 49 or 070 14 24 24 and 20. When we return, the phone lines will be open and we'll continue conversation right here. Please stay with us.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we'll connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
What are you saying? Hashtag Ways. If you just joined, that's what you're watching right here. And thank you so much for being part of the show. We'd like to hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation by sending an SMS or WhatsApp to the number 081 8038 4663. That's the number to send your messages to, SMS and WhatsApp to that number. And the phone lines are also open now, so you can call 070-2500-7749 or 070-1424-24 and 20. Let us hear what you have to say. I mean, if you're a student who we would like to hear what the experience was like and how you have felt or how you feel about all of this and what's really going on. If you're also in the areas that are affected and you'll be taking this examination in the next 2 days, please let's hear what you've got to say. Ufoma is still here with us. Now, Ufoma, thank you so much for joining us once again. But then again, I'm very concerned about us as a country. I mean, Nigeria as a country. If we see the way the world is moving, it's moving towards technology. I mean, if you look at the news and the reports, development from other climes, you look at China, you look at the United States, you look at India, you look at all the parts of the country. There's so much development, there's so much that technology it's doing, the deployment of technology, it's solving a lot of problems. But it looks like we're struggling. I started an example with our elections and back to our examination. What do you think? Do you think that we're really not ready for the use of technology in solving problems in 2025?
I think I would like to separate the technology for elections and the technology issues we have here. It didn't take more than 2 weeks for JAMB to come out and explain to Nigerians what exactly was the technological issue, and explain to us that, well, indeed, the problem was one of the service provider did not do what was supposed to be done, and that's why we had challenges in Lagos and in the Owerri zone. The Owerri zone, of course, consists of the southeast states. That's different from the supposed, mark my words, supposed technological glitches that supposedly we had in 2023. It's 2 years after. Professor Mahmoud has not explained what exactly was that technical glitch. 2 years after. 2 years after, if you go to the IRF portal, you will still not see the complete result of the 2023 general elections. The elections that took place in February, presidential elections, there were presidential elections, there were senatorial elections, there were House of Reps elections. Those, the National Assembly elections did not have issues. They didn't. We saw all the results. If you go check, you will see almost all the results. The only elections that had issues was the presidential election. So from where I stand, I do not in any way believe that we had technical issues. It was just a ready-made excuse as far as I am concerned. INEC, the officials, I had colleagues, who went out for elections on that day. And what I gathered, or what almost all my reporters were saying, including other journalists, was that the officials in most of the centers were given an instruction. They were told point blank, as opposed to the instruction that INEC gave. The persons who were out on the field that day in the respective polling units were told not to remit the results of the presidential elections. In fact, in some polling units, people had to fight, so to speak, had to insist before some persons did. But that's the story of 2 years ago. For JAMB, I think one of the biggest issues is that while you have urban centers like Lagos, Port Harcourt, the capitals of the state, it's easier to use these computers. How about the hinterland? How about the remotest of villages? How about, whether we want to accept it or not, there are millions of Nigerian students, there are thousands of Nigerian students who have never seen a computer before. They only learn computer, from the pages of their notebooks. They have absolutely no idea what a computer looks like. Now, yes, JAMB says there's a mock exam, there are those preparations they do, but unfortunately, even the preparations really didn't help. Like the registrar acknowledged today, they didn't even notice this error all through the mock, the preparations, until the results were released. So while it's great that we want to move with the trend, and I totally support it, we can't be writing exams in 2025 the way I wrote it in 1998 or the way I wrote it in the early 2000s. We can't. But at the same time, we also have to acknowledge that there are persons or there are students, who are unable to go with the times, not because of their own fault, but because Nigeria as a country has actually failed them. If you ask me, I honestly do not have a remedy for you right now. I'll probably leave that to the stakeholders, the kinds of people, kinds of minds, as I'm quoting the JAMB registrar now, that they had to call, to come for a meeting 2 days ago, May the 12th, to actually look into all of these issues and come up with a solution. I guess I'll have to leave it to the stakeholders in the education sector.
All right, now that's fair enough. But do you think that that the issue might just also be tied to our budget, in terms of the budget, because that's what some people actually think? There are some centers, according to reports, that do not have the funds to maintain some of these equipment and what have you for this examination. So do you think it has something to do with, the budget for education not being sufficient and what have you?
The budget for education, maybe not necessarily in terms of conducting of these examinations. Maybe the budget of education over the years, has had its own attendant issues and has made education in our country not something great to write about, such that even just nearby Ghana here, some of our students, are having to go over there for tertiary education. Even the JAMB registrar himself acknowledged that some of the persons they contract these jobs to the CBT centers, that a lot of these persons, these secondary partners, you know, are probably not bothered about all of these education issues. For them, it's about the bottom line. How much are they going to make, you know, by being a partner? It's about the business for them and really not necessarily about the quality of the examination. For me, I think the question we should be asking, and many have been asking that question without possibly getting an answer. Do we really need a central body to conduct examinations for our respective universities? I think that's a fundamental question, you know, that I don't have an answer to, but we need to find answers.
Yeah, because I remember once upon a time, I'm not sure what it's obtainable at this point in time. That's also a very valid question, like you have said. When you have to sit for this examination and you apply for a certain university, despite maybe meeting the JAMB cutoff point of 200 and above, or whatever the cutoff mark would have been at the time, you're still going to be subjected to the school's examination. They call it an aptitude test. And so that once upon a time was a practice, and I think it was in my time. I'm not sure what's going on right now, and if it's what's still in practice.
It was the same practice in my time too. So when I say I took JAMB 10 times, that with PolyJAMB added, it wasn't because I was an Olodo, you know. It was because there were specific schools I wanted to go to, and every time I did not score below 230, I think. 230 or there, or maybe 220 at a point, I can't remember. You know, but every time I scored 230, the school and the courses cutoff mark will be 241 or 245. And when I scored 241, the cutoff mark will be 260. You know, basically, that's what was happening to me. And I did not want to attend a state university. Sadly, okay, no, not sadly, and not unfortunately, but at the end of the day, when it got to a point where I couldn't get what I was looking for, I had to settle for what was in front of me. I ended up going to a state, to my state university, because I wasn't getting the cutoff mark that I needed to go to the federal institutions that I really wanted to attend. So, you know, it comes back to what we're saying here. After going through JAMB and getting whatever cutoff mark that JAMB decides to give as the lowest point, you still have to be able to face the university's aptitude test, you know, or whatever technique the university wants to use to get in their students. And I'm asking myself, why do I need to go through the A and B? Why don't I just go through the university once and for all? You know, so I don't know. I honestly don't know.
But how do we? I mean, I know that you have said that you're not going to answer the question of, you know, providing or preferring solution to some of the issues that we have talked about or the challenge that we're faced with. But I'm not sure that we can actually avoid this conversation tonight. So you have mentioned the fact that, yes, we're moving with the world. I mean, we're progressing as a people. Now we have computer-based examination. But then again, it's not everyone that has the capacity or has been exposed to, you know, a computer or knows what a computer is like. Some persons just saw a computer on a textbook. For myself, I'm going to tell you a quick one. As a university student, 100 level, you have to do a compulsory examination or a course. You have to take a compulsory course. And so people have different, they call it GSS, depending on where you are. So I had my compulsory, and, you know, introduction to computer was it. In a federal university in Nigeria, and for those of you who know me, we literally know where the university I'm talking about. So I'm just going to save all of us the embarrassment. But if you know me, then I'm sure you know where I scored. I kid you not, Ufoma. I was in one of those classes where my lecturer came to the classroom. It was supposed to be a computer lab, and we're all seated there. There were no computers. And I was told to imagine that there was a monitor. that there was a monitor in front of me. How do you imagine a monitor you have never seen? How do you imagine what you've never seen before, what you don't know? But I was lucky, I was privileged. I would say I was privileged because I had been exposed, you know, quite early to seeing a computer. So I even own a laptop. So it was a different ball game for me. So when they say imagine, I could imagine a keyboard, I could imagine a monitor, but I'm not sure it was the same for everybody. And that's the current reality for a lot of people, right? And that's a very valid conversation. So those who are not in the urban centers, you know, who are not in the cities, do they have access to a computer? They don't know what the computer is like. How do we set a computer-based examination where, you know, the people do not have the knowledge? They don't even know what a computer is, not to talk of if they have ever operated one, and you expect them to write an examination. That's on the one hand. No, maybe I just allow you to go ahead with that.
Your story is not different from mine. I had the same issues. I did that whole compulsory computer, whatever, and never for one day was the computer put in front of us. You know, it was a question of theory, write this, write that, what is this, what is that. And for the whole of that semester, no one saw a computer. Well, of course, some of us had started using computers at the time. You know, this was early 2005 to be precise. At least I was going to cyber cafes, even if I did not own a laptop. At that time, I was going to cyber cafes, you know, I could use the computer. So whatever it is I was asked, you know, I could give the answers, I could get the A and move on, you know. But again, it boils down to that fundamental issue. Education in Nigeria, unfortunately, is just more about cramming and reproducing, you know, whatever the lecturer has said to you in class, and less about the practical side of it, you know, which in the real sense of the word, when you come out to the real world, you know, it's about dealing with practicality, how you are able to translate what you've learned in school in practical terms. And so we end up producing graduates who, unfortunately, are half-baked. And that's why a lot of the private universities in the country produce better graduates. No disrespect to our publicly owned universities. You know, we try our best. I went to a public state institution. We try our best, you know, but the reality is those who are in private universities don't have a lot of these problems, you know, because, well, they pay higher and then they get better education. So it's a fundamental issue that it's not just a JAMB issue. It's a whole education system. And we like to turn our attention almost all the time to the federal government. But I think it's high time we started making our governors accountable. You know, the governors in the 36 states, the local government chairman. It starts from there. How do they see education? Now, what's their policy on education? There are quite a number of a few governors who value education. You know, the governors are more concerned with building an airport so that they can land their planes or private jets. They're more concerned with infrastructure. Let's build this road. And I'm not saying building roads are bad. No, but on one hand, while infrastructure is great, you have to be able to train the mind. You have to be able to ensure that the education is topmost. I cannot remember the last time any budget in any of the states or the federal government had the barest minimum of 26% as recommended by UNICEF or UNESCO. Now I can't really remember. So it is these little things. You know, how can someone who has never seen a computer before, you just expect that after one mock exam or two trials, you know, that the person is going to know what needs to be done. And even when the person knows what needs to be done, the person find themselves in situations where their result scores are not marked well, things are not uploaded as they need to be uploaded, or a sad scenario where we've seen a resident in Lagos, Ikorodu to be precise, take her own life, just because she couldn't deal with the trauma of JAMB's inefficiency.
Yes. So, two more days, the JAMB registrar said that there will be a reseat for centers that were affected. But do you think that there's going to be confidence? Would you think that the people would trust the process? Do you see people participating in this examination? Do you think that parents would actually encourage? What do you see panning out here at the end of the day in 2 days' time?
I think for the majority of the students, they would have to resit. JAMB has promised that, SMSs will be sent, calls will be made, to these persons, because again, information needs to be passed out. That's where we in the media would have to, keep reinforcing this message out there so that these persons could possibly know that they have another chance. But even the JAMB registrar himself admitted that they've taken a hit. I'm not sure anytime soon people will have confidence, in the exam body. And it's sad. While, I've been critical of Professor Loyede, and JAMB, I also have to give credit where it's due. There's been some good innovations that the entrance examination body has done over the years. But this failure of 2025, it's like, when you have raw egg, very delicate, throw it to the floor, it just bursts, and it's quite difficult. It's almost impossible to pack it back. The only thing you can do is, if it's possible, to take the what has gone to the floor, to fry it and make something out of it. Exactly. But apart from that, JAMB.
Well, Ufoma Igbamono is the head of news at Cool Wazobia Info right here in joined us to shed more light around the development around the UTME results and what's happening. In 2 days' time, the registrar said that those cities that have been affected, there will be a receipt of this examination. So if you have your wards, your kids, and what have you, please encourage them and support them to receive this examination. But I think that this is where I would say that the conversation should not end here. The issue of governance is a very, very delicate issue. Politics is politics, and governance is governance. And when we begin to campaign across different, parts of the country, asking for people to vote for us, I hope that we have plans for the people. Education is important. I'm hoping that we also, those who are followers or citizenry, the citizenry should not fold their arms and just wait for the government to get it all right. We have to engage constantly. The conversation should not end here, but this is very important that you understand those who are, we should not fold their arms and just wait for the government to get it all right. We have to engage constantly. The conversation should not further by dropping a comment, and most importantly, follow us on all of our social media platforms and engage with us. We'll be right there to, continue the conversation. And remember to like, share, and comment, and invite your friends, family to watch as well. Let's continue the conversation after here. Now, if you missed our quote for today, here is the quote for today. What should have been a moment of joy has changed due to 1 or 2 errors. That's according to Oluyide. And I'll see you tomorrow, God willing, at 8 p.m. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I am Messi Boko.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population, and with little or no meaningful engagement, lives a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.